anything that any guest has ever said on the show. You know that. There's a disclaimer on our website. The viewpoints expressed on The Edge are not necessarily those of the host, the staff, the sponsors, or our affiliate radio stations. But we sure do respect everyone's opinion. And we'd like to hear it. And we'd like to hear their stories. And we'd like to hear from their experience and their research. And that's why we have The Edge every Saturday night, discovering the truth together, you and I, and our esteemed guest. Now, going back to our Newsmaker line, let's bring her back on. Sherry, welcome back to the program.
Hello.
Well, I think we may have lost some Paul supporters, but as far as listeners go, but I think maybe they need to tune back in tomorrow, listen to the show again to see. There are some things that, as that one writer wrote, that says, you know, there is some thread of truth there to what you're saying. I think some people can at least say there's some questions that should be asked.
Well, the thing about it is people think that you're being disloyal to God, that you're trying to destroy Christianity by pointing out the deceptions and lies of Christianity. The Lord's apostles and his apostles, they weren't Christians. Those were Paul's. That's why you'll see a difference today of Pauline Christians and just believers of the Most High. Believers. The Lord's apostles were called believers of the way, or Judahites. They never distinguished themselves as Christians. It was Paul's followers who were called Christians. There's always been two different camps in the early church, a divide.
You know, I was thinking about that. That scripture says they were first called Christians. That doesn't mean you're supposed to call them Christians. It just said that that's what they were called.
Well, that's what they referred to Paul's followers, because he had a different following than the apostles. It was two different camps that existed side by side. Well, Paul had his own disciples, Mark, Luke, Timothy, Titus. And the apostles, of course, were anointed by God himself.
All right. Well, let's tell you what. Let's get back into these questions. We've got to get these going here. My good friend Don from Ohio wants to know: have you studied Wilhelm Reich's method for constructing the orgone generator?
I've read his material. I found it fascinating that he had rediscovered this orgone energy, and then the government threw him in jail where they killed him. I mean, you know, here we go again. You know, his whole thing, if you read his material, was the fact that he was the warrant that was demanding he be in court was never signed by a judge, and so he didn't go.
Really?
And it was the very fact that he didn't show up for court that they used to throw him in jail. Well, it was never signed by a judge. And so, you know, you go back and you read some of the stuff. He was a brilliant scientist. He developed different ways, different things, had different ideas for orgone. The Lord simply led me to one aspect of it because it's a life energy. It's the energy of life itself. The earth naturally emits orgone energy from it because it's a natural earth energy.
Yeah.
And what happens with all these chemtrails that the government and military are spewing all over the world and all the populations, they're putting dead orgone in our air. And so the positive orgone that we create puts positive energy orgone back into the air and combats the dead orgone that they're putting in.
And there's nothing worse than having to breathe in some dead orgone. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, well, it's killing people. It's making them sick. These diseases coming up, fibromyalgia. I can't even pronounce it.
Yeah.
Fibromyalgia.
Yeah, right. That's pretty good.
Chronic fatigue syndrome. These
Doug,
are
help me
all
with that
from
one.
chemtrails.
Yeah. Well, our guest last week was saying that they're using aluminum barium. Oh, is that a strain of orgone?
That's no aluminum. Barium itself, I've seen that. It has something to do with aerosol in the air, and it's what these aliens need to pull off this Blue Beam project, the holographics that are required. That's part of the Blue Beam project. It's part of this whole holographics military thing where they're bringing in Satan as God with a heavenly host. And so they need this aerosol in the air to pull that off.
Really?
And what's funny about it is the orgone just blasts holes in it. So it's going to be interesting to see them pull this off in the last days, what happens when they try it.
Okay. We have this question in, and I guess, Sherry, at some time, were you trying to raise money to buy a safe haven for Christians?
Yeah, definitely. At one time I wanted to get some land so that the Christians could have a place to congregate. A lot of people are going to be losing their homes. The coming weather catastrophes that are coming. But you know what, it didn't materialize. And so, you know, I tried, I offered, what else can I do? I mean, I hear from people all the time, is there one place where we can all go and just be together and the Lord's people set up our own community and stuff like that? And you know what, unless you're government sponsored, you're just not going to have the funds to do anything, and I'm not about to be government sponsored.
But on the other hand, why would you want to centralize malcontents?
Well, the Lord's people aren't malcontents. I mean, we're all
Well,
we want to be together.
I'm saying from their point of view, from their point of view, why would you, identify yourself in a, and gather people of like mind in an area?
Yeah. Well, the Lord can protect it. We're not worried about protection.
I'm just clarifying.
It's
I'm not
just
saying
having the ability to do so, and and until it's time, until the Lord Himself, does it. I've given up on it. I get so tired of His people.
Well, now,
it's like, Lord, I tried.
Okay. Well, to clarify, I wasn't saying malcontent from my point of view. I mean from their point of view, because obviously resistor, malcontents, whatever,
Yeah, well, the thing is, Daniel, is that there are covenant communities that have sprung up across the United States where the Lord told me is they're all infiltrated by government agents.
God, man, them government agents everywhere. All right, let's
and so you had,
They got to be serpent seeders, government agents. They're all about it.
Most of them just think we're so whacked. They don't understand us.
Really?
So you have a division within the federal government itself.
Yeah.
Those who aren't and just think we're all whacked, and those who are, who really know that what we're talking about is true, and we're more worried about us than they let on to the other half of the government.
Well, here's something. Writer writes in, why are there 66 books in the KJV and Paul has 13? Is there anything occultic in those numbers?
Well, they're occultic numbers. Exactly. Why would the Lord end His word, inerrant word, on an occultic number of 66?
All right, we have a contradiction here, or a challenge. I guess it's directed toward me, because I mentioned something about graven images. This writer says that the temple was full of pictures of angels and seraphim commanded by God, and the ark of the angels had, of course, they made the ark, and they had two seraphim on top. So weren't those images though?
Well, I wouldn't refer to something that the Lord commands us to do as images.
Yeah.
I mean, the Ark of the Covenant was made a particular way as per God's instructions Himself. It was His resting place on earth. His spirit would rest in this Ark of Covenant.
Got it.
And in the throne room itself, He is surrounded by angels.
But he never did say make a painting of Jesus and put it in a church hall.
No.
But he did say put a bronze snake on a pole. So that would not be an idol. But if man created it without God's instruction, that would be. Is that
yes,
would be a graven?
The snake on the pole was healing people. I mean, those who got big could look on the snake and be healed.
Yeah.
I mean, everything has its purpose, served its purpose for Yahweh.
Hey, look, I'm with the Lord, man. I mean, if he's saying to do something, I'm all for it. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
So
I'm not going to sit and question him, but
if he's saying put a snake on a pole, or if he says throw an axe head in the water and watch it float, whatever he wants to do, I'm his man there. Hey, okay, we have this question here. Do you believe that Hannah Billups was killed?
Yes.
Why?
That's all I'm going to say.
Okay. I got an email. In fact, I think I just got it today from a doctor who said that nobody could die as was purported. And
exactly, Daniel.
Well,
how many people have broken legs, bones, and I've never heard of it. I've never heard of anybody dying of a knee injury.
Okay, is she dead?
Oh, I believe so.
Okay.
I don't know.
Okay.
You know what? I just think the whole thing. I stumbled on something on the internet that made some complete sense. I was probably the last person on the internet to not even know she died, because I wasn't just I wasn't staying up on the whole thing. I'm a kind of busy person myself. But I heard she died and some of the things, and from the whole outset, she was set up.
Well, something traumatic happened to her. Hey, we have this question here. Sherry, do you think it's a good idea to look at your soul as a rental that you get to keep if you repent and obey the Ten Commandments?
Well, I think it's something we do out of obedience, not out of threat of judgment.
Well,
I love the Lord. I want to do what He says just because I love Him and want to be His.
Yeah, but see, our souls are not rentals to the aliens. They're just taking them. This is like shoplifting, isn't it? When they steal souls.
You've heard of the soul catcher machine on the moon, and this stuff. Truth is often stranger than fiction.
Well, what about the Indians and their dream catchers? What are they really catching in those things? Are they catching souls or what?
Well, they're soul catchers. I don't know about these dream catchers.
But there are soul catchers.
Yeah, there are soul catchers.
So souls are flying around and you can catch them.
Well, they do. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, you don't always. We seem to think of when you die, your spirit goes to heaven or hell. Religion teaches, Bible teaches. But exactly what is hell? Hell's very vast. It's not always just going down to hell and suffering in flames. It's very vast. There's different levels, different areas of hell. and the Sananda, this Jesus that plays behind the scenes in near-death experiences. I mean, there's a whole realm that Christians don't even know about exists.
All right. This writer writes that, referring earlier to Paul, that since he wrote most of the New